Okay, we're going to start now. So this is the second session for our mindfulness talk. And we'll give you some questions straight away so we can get that out of the way. Get your pen. And I will send them to you anyway. So if you don't write them down, it's fine. Okay, so when we talked about trying to be present as much as you can, and how much is 100%? I mean, how can you be aware and present all the time? So the first question is, were you present today and how much? This is just for you, so you can write down. As we said in class, so maybe you lost it in the beginning, or you got angry for some reason. So just be aware of how much you were really in the present moment. Just before we go to the next question, also just a reminder from a few sessions ago, we were talking about the word attention, if you remember. And we were saying that attention has like many faces. Can you remember those words? So we talked about attention. We talked about it means to be in the now. We talked about listening. When you're listening, you are like in the present moment. We talked about being totally in the present moment, what that means, your totality of how much of you is right here as you are, putting something away or you're thinking about something else. Intensity was another word we used. So these words can help you to be intensely in the present moment. And awareness, or to be open, was the other words we used for attention. Yeah. So when I ask you the first question, how you were present today, it means basically all this. When you were brushing your teeth, everything you were doing, you're totally present, and you were able to practice that now. All right. The second question is, what do you really need and why? It may sound similar to some of the other questions, but just phrase it differently. So what do you really need? And question number 3, where is peace? Where can you find peace? Number 4, are you listening to your breath? Are you listening to your breathing or to your breath? Because your breath is trying to tell you something, if you're aware of it. Number 5, what is the problem right now? What is the problem right now? I'm talking about right now. Number 6, this is a question that my teacher asked me, so I'll just let you, maybe it's not true for you, but it's a question. So why is there no love in what you do? So you might say, well, there is love in what I do. But I'm trying to go deeper here. So when you're doing the dishes, or when you're doing something? Why is there no love in what you do? If there is love, then you can maybe explain how you do it or how you can prove it. Number 7, what disappoints you? What disappoints you? And again, try to go deep. Um, for example, I had a student once that said, the student said, "I'm tired of being disappointed. I don't want to be disappointed anymore." So what is happening in that case? So what is missing for your understanding to change if you're always getting disappointed? Number 8, what would happen if you saw everything as it is? What would happen if you saw everything as it is? So I mean, without mind interpreting things all the time, having an opinion. How would you be different? Number 9, what is more important, learning or improving? Say you have to pick one. What is more important, learning or improving? And number 10, why am I not awake? Aware all of the time. So why am I not aware? Instead of getting just little glimpses of awareness or um, trying to go to the cause really of what is the problem, why we are not awake. This is for you and for me, why. It's easy to answer and just say, oh, society doesn't let me. Um, so I want more than that, not just blaming society. Okay, so the same thing, you can answer the ones you want. And I'm always going through your questions and answers, and I will answer back some of them. Yeah. All right. Any questions before I carry on anything in general or from last week? Okay, if you think about today, for example, did you enjoy the day today? Yeah. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Was it a good day? So remember, there's no tomorrow. Yes. If there is tomorrow, then you cannot stop thinking about it. So as soon as you start to think, you've created that tomorrow. It brings me to a point I want to ask you again, just to think about. This is a question about thinking. We were talking about thoughts. Can thoughts be aware of themselves? Yeah. And so if you have an answer, you can answer that question. But we're going to look today at probably with this idea that all thoughts are maybe born out of one first thought, the original thought. So which one was the original thought? The first thought that you had, let's say. So maybe the first thought that we have is, we call it the I. And then the I cannot live without thoughts. So you've created an I, and then you've created some more thoughts about the I and about me. And then it starts. So it's a bit of a meditation we do in Zen to try to go back to the original thought. Because once you have all these thoughts, then there is a belief that you have an identity. So the idea is to catch the thoughts before they emerge. So it's just Zen meditations. There's nothing you can, it doesn't become a philosophy in a discussion. It's just to try to be aware of thinking. Why am I thinking? Can I be aware of the thoughts before it comes through? Or am I aware of the thought after? Or can thought be aware of itself? And you can play with that for months, really. Yes, you can repeat it to yourself every few hours. Am I aware of my thoughts? It's another way to say, like I mentioned to you, for me, I would say, I wonder what Bruno's going to think about next. So when I say that, as I'm walking to the kitchen, I could be saying, what's going to be my next thought? So there will be no thoughts. So as long as you can try to keep that awareness there, just play with it, you'll find that there's less and less to say about things. You're still quite effective in doing a lot of things, but you just don't have to have a mental commentary, in your head. You don't have to have this self-talk. And the other one I was going to mention today was this idea of being. So who are you without your thinking process? We talked about emptiness, although it doesn't mean much, but it is true. That's what you are. It's an emptiness. Because you don't have any ideas and judgments in that sense. Another word that can be used is to be just a passive awareness. It's another word that I made a note that we used to use in Zen. In this passive awareness experience, nothing is missing. So you become just like the observer again. You're not doing anything. It's not about not knowing anything, I would say. It's not doing, not knowing, not wanting. It's a different state, yeah. Even not learning. Because the word learning probably doesn't really exist. Learning is a word we created with the mind, but the real learning is when you're empty and you're totally absorbing, taking everything in like a child. So and we call that learning. So for you to learn something, you have to stop thinking and talking so you can pay attention. So it's interesting to analyze what does learning really mean. So it's a very open state of awareness. If you think about the opposite is it's not probably not really much about learning um, on being passive. It's you trying to do things. Yeah, you're always moving. So everything is wrong in a sense. Instead of nothing missing, everything is missing. You're trying to fill in more. So you just be aware of when you're always trying to do more and fill in more. As was used in one of the questions, improving. Yeah, we're always trying to improve. That's fine. But just notice the mind is doing that. And last week we talked about being comfortable with not knowing as well. You don't have to remember everything. So it can be a state of just relax. You don't need to remember. You don't need to know. It's just really living. And we kind of forgot how to do that. So the observer is quite a nice word that they used to use as well, to try to be just an observer of yourself, of what's happening around you. All right, at that point, I just want to give a gap. So see if there's anything you want to say. I'll just carry on in a few minutes. Anything that doesn't make sense, please ask and I'll repeat. I mean, how do you apply it? I would say, like if someone is suffering, yes, you may feel as if the situation is creating the suffering, but it's really your resistance. Your resistance is creating the suffering. The unacceptable situation is what is creating the suffering. But if you cannot accept the external situation, then or condition, then you need to accept the internal condition, which means just realize that, okay, this is happening. So you can work on the internal and how you feel. You can't do anything about the external condition. But in the mind, we think, oh, that's unacceptable. You know what's happening, and already it means that we are already into a fight. So if you can catch that attitude of yours of fighting something, and you can really look at it and see why, and then you feel like you don't suffer anymore. So there is a way to live without suffering. And it's just to look at what you think is a problem. You just look at it properly, and then you realize it's not a problem. All right, we've got probably 10 minutes. If there's anything you want to talk about, any topic specifically? I would say mostly think about yourself and think, are you practicing these little techniques? If not, why? So we can come up with some more ideas. Simple things. It's not an effort. It's not a big effort to to be mindful. Yes, it's actually the easiest thing in the world.
You said, like, for example, with the suffering, if you kind of look at the thing and you accept it, in some ways, isn't that also maybe just giving up? I mean, at what point do you kind of accept something or try and make an effort to do something about it rather than giving into it, or, like I say, giving up? And I guess one of the things, an example is maybe looking at something like depression that people have. Often they need to kind of pull themselves up and actually do day-to-day things to get ahead. So what's that point at which it's giving in but not giving up?
Yes, the word giving up. Again, you could really just meditate on that. It's what does it really mean to give up? Uh, are you fighting in the first place something? So maybe you have quite high expectations, and then eventually you say, okay, I give up. So we need to be realistic in what's going on. I think, depression, we know now that it's okay. It could be chemical, but something missing in the body maybe. But we don't want to look at it that way, because it's been proven that it's your way of thinking. And for somebody suffering with depression, they actually have they're actually doing a lot. They're doing the same type of thinking over and over again. We were talking about the dragon, last term, that you have to have a positive outlook, and that requires a lot of practice as well, to be positive and to know that whatever's coming your way it's okay. You're going to learn from it. It's not giving up. I never thought of giving up as being something like a failure. In Tai Chi, definitely when you yield, it doesn't mean you're losing. Giving up is because there is a force that is quite strong coming your way, you move out of the way. So the important thing is to get to that level where you're not fighting life, you're not fighting a person, and you're not fighting yourself. And anything that happens in your life is for you to practice those things, is to practice it, to try to achieve what you want. Again, not thinking too much about results, like I mentioned with the archery. Simply is, if I shooting an arrow, I'm aiming at the bullseye, and I, probably for the first 20 years, I rarely would hit the bullseye. So you would think, well, what's the point? You're always missing. So eventually you see the point is not hitting, the point is aiming. So we are creators, and we're supposed to create or visualize something that you want. But it doesn't mean that, it has to come, or that's what you should have, because you don't really know if that is the right thing for you. So it's a bit of trust and letting go and just going for the things you like and would love to do, but if it doesn't work, of course, eventually you will know, okay, that's enough. I think I've done enough. And internally you change, you change and you realize, okay, I've tried to do motor racing for many years, it didn't work. So I realized it's actually not that important anymore. I'm glad that I've tried, but I don't feel like I was a failure in any way because I haven't done it. So, so it's really, once you know yourself, you find that a lot of these questions kind of disappear. And there is quite a love in everything that you're doing or not doing, or you leave it for next life if you have to. But of course, there is no formula for your question. It's like, okay, it's your life, so you know when enough is enough, and you have to move on to something else. I used to think with archery, when I missed the target, I would say to myself, why did I miss the target? What is the information that is missing so I can actually hit the target? Instead of complaining about hitting the target, I'm thinking about, oh man, I should give up and I'll try another few months. I'll try a different bow or different arrows, those kind of things. So instead of doing all that, I would just really think, what is the information that is missing for me to take it to the next level? What is it that I don't know? And without realizing, I was putting myself more and more into just pure awareness, really looking. Because I'm quite excited and wanted to learn what is, how to do it. So you do feel pretty much like a child, just, wanting to have a go and try. Anything else? We have 5 minutes, I think. So we do need to suffer a little bit, I believe. I think I mentioned in this class, there was another class where this writer, Eckhart Tolle, which I mentioned many times to you, and Eckhart did think about suicide many times. And this is when he was only 6 years old. I heard him in an interview, and he actually said when he was 6 years old, he thought, okay, it's good to know I got this window here because I can jump really high and I can end my life and whenever I want to. So he was a very kind of depressed child when he was quite young. And then one day he just realized, he said to himself, I cannot live with myself anymore. And then suddenly he had this realization of, I cannot live with myself. It sounds like true. Who is this I, that, and myself? And suddenly he actually really had it's just like if you look right directly, you'll see it. So it's just a matter of how strong your awareness is and you're really looking at your question. And suddenly he kind of transformed completely. And then he had no more questions in a way. He realized who he was. And he realized it was the mind. So, but some people don't have to, if you're looking for example, in history, if you're looking for enlightenment or some kind of self-realization, and some people do it through a lot of meditation, so there's a lot of work. So they're doing a lot of work on meditating, like you could say Buddha, Osho. I've been doing it since I was, 5. So you can be doing that, you're trying to reach this state. And then you have people which really like Eckhart, who not spiritual at all. He didn't read anything spiritually, and he just got to the same point. And it wasn't a spiritual journey for him. He just woke up because of his suffering. So it can be suffering, it can wake you up, or it can be studies and listening to other teachers and stuff that can kind of make you a bit more present and understand, why you're here and who you are. So, but yeah, it looks like suffering is a good one. I think we all know that one. So even now with the virus going for another 12 days, I contacted Selwyn College and Parnell and all that, and so they basically said they're going to stop paying me, right? Because there's no classes. So, and then my back went out today, so I couldn't get up for hours. I was stuck in bed, and I had to cancel all my first 4-hour classes, and the old injury came back, and then, but all that is no suffering. I know it sounds weird, but it's just what it is. So it's almost like fun in a way. You just have to deal with it. And then something else comes up, and then the lawyer wanted something else because I need to leave this house where I'm living, and I don't have a place to go now. And if we're going to lockdown, my house will not be ready. So you get all these things happening. And I notice my mind that is becoming a little bit concerned, but awareness is there at the same time. So then there is no suffering. So you could probably, I mean, it's hard to explain it, but you could say maybe that there is a thought, but at the same time there is awareness. So there's a balance, there's a harmony there. But if you have a thought and no awareness, then that thought becomes a bit of a panic. Yeah. So that's the reason why we try to develop awareness and mindfulness, because it just gets rid of all the stress from your life and the anxiety. You can see things as they really are. You don't make a story. Yeah. So just stick with the facts. Don't make a big story and think about it for 20 minutes about what could happen, because now you're just releasing your adrenaline and you're getting all upset, and then you can't sleep. So whenever you can, even listening to nice quiet music before you go to sleep, and just be aware of little exercises you can do, like we said, just be grateful by being present. Try to be aware of your thinking. You could just say to yourself, is thought aware of itself? And that can be quite a good exercise. We talked about looking at the gates where your thoughts come from. So have a look at the place where your thoughts are coming from, and then you'll see there will be no thoughts. And just practice that maybe if you can, once every hour or two. All right, 2 minutes. So I'm sure you're kind of practicing this already, but maybe you just forget sometimes. You get too busy, yes? Well, if you leave things to the last minute, then you don't have a chance to be mindful because you're starting to rush. So don't make things too hard for yourself. Just slow things down a bit. Any final question? Not sure I'll have time to answer it, but go ahead.
Sorry, I missed the beginning, Bruno. I can see you're recording this. Will you be sending the questions out again like you did for the last lot?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And is it 10 questions this time as well?
Oh, yeah. Exciting, huh?
Oh, my God. Are we going to get 10 a week?
I was going to go for 20, but then I thought, no, just keep it 10. All right.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. So because of my back at the moment, I'm just going to send you another link just for the Shibashi set number 1. And if I've got enough energy, I'll do the beginning of set number 2. And then we'll leave it at that. So it'll be just another half an hour, probably even less. If you want to log in again, yes. So I'll send you another link, and we'll do our class. So with the music and movement, it's quite nice for us to relax. So thank you so much. So we may see
Thank
you
you.
later on or next Friday.
Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you,
Okay,
Bruno.
thanks.